this, I don't want to go too long-winded, but I want to ask you about the tactical level a little bit. Because I do think that, frankly, like people that don't differentiate with their, conversion button by color are maybe losing out. I mean, but tell me if I'm wrong. Is this like something that people should focus on? Like, the colors they use, and should they invest in Optimizely and test the red button versus the blue button?
Yeah, so this is a great question. Again, something that there's books, entirely books on. I think that the point I'll make about that is, does button color matter? Yes, I mean, we can measure that and test.
Do some stats.
What matters more is the context that button lives in. And so for example, a red versus a green button, I wouldn't go looking for the answer of whether at a removed from context level you should be using red or green. Sure, there's some best practices. Absolute.
In
red is better.
In absolute terms, red is the best color. Red, the best color.
Not true.
Forget about it.
Yeah, these are not. There is no capital T truth there. That what it is it's about context, right? If your whole branding is around these sort of blue and grays and so forth, then you want your buttons to flow from that, right? And then create contrast against that. So having a red button might be really alarming and send a very different message than if your branding is like oranges and reds and these warm colors, right? And it's great. The context matters, right? And
okay.
So the other thing is about testing and optimizing. So test and optimization is very important for your overall strategy. Once you have the funnel sort of set up.
And I mean, we talk a lot about traffic, but you gotta have a little bit of traffic. If you're going to optimize for 500 uniques a month, it's like very and
it'll take forever for you to learn anything significant anyway, in terms of statistical significance on your test.
Yeah.
So you need to set. So even if you have low traffic, you're probably, first of all, better off to spend your time figuring out how to get
more traffic. Yeah, totally.
But if you are going to set up A/B tests, you want to be taking. You want to be making sure you're choosing very, very poignant, targeted things, and not tiny little elements.
Yeah, so make it relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, and what people do with test and optimization and A/B testing or multivariate testing is you can get stuck in local minima. And so what I mean by that is, if you think about stocks, they go up and down. If you look at a stock graph, right?
Yeah.
And optimization, by nature of its word, is about finding sort of the peak within a very short distance along that way.
I see. It's like dynamic, because
yes,
if you're growing and have all these ad campaigns going, and you bring these new audiences in, what was optimized for that earlier audience is maybe like,
well, there's that. I guess it's what in my analogy is a little strange, but the local minima that you can get stuck in is if you're looking for, or the local maxima. By local, I mean within a small range of
observations
or optional change that you could introduce to the site, right?
Right.
You're only testing because you're A/B testing a button color.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So the range of variance that you're testing is very, very small, and so where you're looking for a peak only within that. But really, if your peak is way out here, way up high, you're never going to find it. You can't optimize your way to get over that.
You can't red blue button it to the ultimate maximum.
That's right. You're not going to red blue button your way to being Tesla.
Yeah,
totally. You're not going to do that. You have to. So
there's a bigger picture, the context you mentioned at the beginning.
Yes, and so you have to understand the gestalt, the forest, before you get down to A/B testing the leaves on the tree.
So you basically think that early on there's bigger wins in a lot of cases than A/B testing with Optimizely or whatever. Not to say that Optimizely is not important, but I mean,
don't get stuck on that. Get stuck on, and I guess one of the last points is, don't reinvent the wheel if it's not your core differentiator or value prop.
Okay.
So if there are a lot, I guarantee that whatever you're selling or building is probably has an akin out there in the wild that somebody else has been successful in selling and marketing and building a site around something related.
And so people have an idea in their mind of what this is kind of supposed to be like.
Yes, and so go out and do a competitive evaluation, even if it's not a direct competitor. So let's say if I'm selling a new, I want to sell tennis shoes, I can go look at a site that sells tennis rackets. It's fine, or because there's enough relationship there in what we're doing, and I want and look across them, find the best of breed, put your persona hats on. So say I already know I've got Joe, Steve, and Mary, and they are these different types of markets. Look at those competitor sites and just don't steal the design characteristics, but the overall flow and their button strategies and their form fields and their cart path and so forth. don't reinvent those if that's not your core product differentiator. Don't spend your time trying to figure out the best way a brand new way to reinvent buttons.
Okay, so you're saying
if your whole product is not about buttons.
So you're saying basically, so we talked a little bit about, you know, the big picture, the context versus the A/B testing. You're saying know your core thing. This is what makes me different than the rest of the world,
Yes.
and invest in that.
Yes.
And look for those bigger pops of differentiation and growth from the core competencies, rather than these things that you're maybe not the best at.
That's right. And you're not going to win by.
I love that. I think it's a great idea because, you know, honestly, you know, you talk to like somebody like, well, actually, I've never talked to Eric Schmidt. I would love to talk to Eric Schmidt. But I read the Google, you know, How Google Works book, and, you know, he talks a lot about how, like, in today's world, there's so many good technologies that already exist that you might as well, like, white label some of this shit.
Yes.
And so it's like, if you're not a web design company, and, you know, in the case of Easel, like, we're educators, you know, we make cool
Right.
videos that people like to watch, we white label our, you know, infrastructure.
Yep.
Because somebody who's better at you know, so we could spend all day trying to tweak this stuff, but it's like,
don't do that.
yeah, go
Don't
for
waste your time.
make better educational content or courses that people care about or
That's
whatever.
right. That's
you know?
your core differentiator. That's what makes you great, and you should be focusing on that, not on the infrastructure platform and optimizing there. Now, granted, if you grow your business into a 100,000 person company,
Right, and you
then
get
maybe you're
100,000
investing in
uniques
that,
a
right?
month, and
Yeah.
then, you know, a 2% differentiation
Right.
on the button makes a big difference.
makes a big difference. But other than that, you should just be going and looking flatly. Who's been successful at doing this? What are the sort of core principles that they're using? Look across the landscape, take the best of breed, and apply